Welcome to the 3Haunted podcast, where we bring you all things horror, supernatural, folklore, mythology, and all things that go bump in the night.
Hey guys, this is your co-host Ashley Lunar Goddess, Gorilla Girl filmmaker and horror-loving cinephile. I'm just your average pun-making swearwolf that loves to explore the spookier things in life.
I'm your co-host John Thomas, paranormal investigator, super smartass, and film lover extraordinaire.
I am the master button presser. I find the buttons and I tap dance on them.
Yes, she does.
All right, are we ready?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to do the intro, and I'm not going to look at you because you always
I
make
know.
me laugh.
That's why I do it.
See? Aren't you glad my face isn't on the goddamn screen now?
No, I want your face on. Okay. What's up, ghouls, gals, and all of our horror soundtrack lovers? In today's episode, we'll be discussing the music of horror. What is it about the music that makes us tense up? How does music help set the tone for our beloved horror films? Join us, along with our special guest, as we dive into this melodious world.
But first, a word from our network sponsor.
Are you looking for more awesome podcasts? Head on over to withoutyourhead.com for access to the Without Your Head podcast network, where you'll find a variety of podcasts sure to keep you entertained and coming back for more.
But welcome back, everybody. Like Ashley said, we have a special guest today. And who is it? His name is Chris. And that's all I know.
That's fair.
Chris, the amazing Chris, who is a phenomenal tattoo artist, who is also from the amazing YouTube show, The Vinyl Attack. If you have not listened to it or seen it and you're all about music and like just sound in general, sound equipment, and it's an amazing show. I would check it out. Go to YouTube, hit subscribe, follow, love every video he does. And also just a really good, dear person to me. Chris, welcome to the show.
You know I'm not paying you for this, right?
I know.
I mean, it's very sweet of you to say, but I feel like half of that was just absolute bullshit.
Oh my God, no, it wasn't. You forget. I have seen your tattoo work because I wanted you to do a tattoo on me, but then you kind of shifted away from that. And then I have watched quite a few of your... I know, but I've also watched quite a few of your Vinyl Attack YouTube videos. One, you have a beautiful voice for presentation, and you are absolutely just lovely to watch, and you really know what you're talking about.
I'll agree on the last part. I like to think that I know what I'm talking about, but that's just because it's years of passion. So if you do what you love, it's usually not that difficult, and that's really what I'm trying to do. So most of the stuff that I do when I review products, there's stereos like amplifiers and preamplifiers, but turntables, like the name of the show of course indicates, vinyl is a big hobby, and I've been into it for ages because I'm old. But it's obviously it has a huge resurgence, and I like analog. Like when I played guitar, I played through a Marshall tube amp. And there's nothing wrong with solid state, but I like as much analog as I can get because it just, it sounds better to me. So, but yeah, I try to know what I'm talking about. I did my homework for this show. I've got some things just in case. So, because I didn't know where we're going to go with this.
But let's not be humble here. I mean, your YouTube videos, you know how much you're talking about so much that your videos have easy 10,000 views and up. Because
some of them,
that's how much you know what you're talking about when it comes to equipment.
Some of them only have 2,000 or 3,000 views, and that's
only.
Okay.
Only.
I do this because I love it. It's not a popularity contest for me, because that's what happened with tattooing, which I retired from that, by the way. Mm-hmm. And the reason I haven't tattooed is because you're 1,500 or 2,000 miles away. That's why. So don't let her fool you. I turned her down or something. She lives on the other side of the damn country.
No, he turned me down. I said, hey, Chris, before I leave town, I need you to tattoo me.
Yeah, she had about 37 minutes. She's like, what can we do in that time? I can stab you with an ink pen. What are you doing?
You get a stick figure. That's all you get.
You get a smiley face. Yeah.
But yeah, I retired from that. But that became a popularity contest. It wasn't about how good you were at your craft. It was about how popular you were. And I don't like that. for me. So with
Right.
YouTube, when I started that, I remember thinking, okay, if I can get 1,000 subscribers in the first year, I'll keep doing this. Like, because I'm doing it because I care and I'm passionate about it. And then I got lucky enough and I got like 1,000 subs in the first month. I'm like, oh, this could be a thing. And it grew relatively quickly from there, considering the size of my hobby. Because I'm not doing like tech stuff or cell phones or video games. To be a big music nerd is not the quick path to fame. So you have to like what you're doing.
But like you said, vinyl is in right now.
It is.
You always had the vinyl love. It wasn't a
Yes.
trend for you, but like vinyl is very much trendy and hot right now. I mean, you go into any store now and it's like you see these knockoff record players
Yeah.
just because it's trendy. And
Right.
I always had a love for vinyl. I know you were like, wait, what? You're into vinyl? But like, oh my gosh, my grandmother back in the day had this old school like record player that was it was in the wood casing of something that looked like a jukebox, but it
Oh,
wasn't a
sure. Yeah. Yeah.
jukebox,
Yeah.
but it was yeah, and she had one of those old ones, and she had a ton of vinyl, and I swear, I would just sit there at night and play vinyl after vinyl after vinyl, and there is something about that sound that is just it is not you just can't reach it with anything else. Digitally, like, yeah, digital music is easy and great and more
Sure.
accessible,
Yeah.
but something about that vinyl sound, oof.
Right when you first put the needle down and you hear the little crackle. Oh, I freaking love it.
Yes, there is just something that swoons your heart.
There's something tactile about it too, because
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong with a CD. I actually still have a very large CD collection, but there's something about having to be a little delicate with your record because you don't want to scratch it
Yes.
and having to flip it. But also for me, ever since I was a kid, it was having that giant freaking picture on the cover. So whatever the album art was,
Yes.
cassettes were cool because you put them in your boom box and you could take them down to the park to go skateboarding or something. And CD's kind of the same thing, but when you've got a full 12-inch record, like that's cover art, and you can see what the
Yes.
artist intended a lot easier.
Yes.
And being an artist myself, that's one of the many things that drew me to it. So, but yeah, I'm growing my record collection ever so slowly these days, but it's more for a lack of room. I need I need a bigger house. But
A house for your records.
just another room. I need an additional room. I'm thinking about moving house just so I can have an extra room. But it's I'm happy that it's popular because it's also bringing out a lot of great soundtracks that weren't available before. Like
Right.
Dune, the original Dune soundtrack that Toto did. That if you
Yeah.
haven't heard that in a while, I really recommend listening to it. And it's not horror, but it's sci-fi, and it's still pretty grim. Like Dune is not a that's not a happy tale, you know. But that wasn't on vinyl for a long time. You couldn't find it on CD either, and they've re-released it, and it is so good.
I'm gonna have to check it
Nice.
out.
Yeah, one of my favorite album art covers was Meatloaf Bat Out of Hell.
Sure.
Freaking loved that cover. Yes. And I actually bought a new record with, that one, so that was good.
I liked that album cover until I heard the music. Not that it was bad, but like I'm looking at that thinking, oh man, this is gonna be
Something completely
fantastic, right?
different.
And
Right.
then I heard him sing. I'm like, what the hell? It didn't add up when I was young, and I heard that it didn't add up because when I
Right.
saw like the closest thing to that I saw at the time was probably Kiss. My dad had some Kiss
Yeah.
records,
Okay.
and you saw those guys, and then you heard the band, you're like, yeah, that's what I imagined. And then I heard Meatloaf singing, and I just didn't get it.
I love listening, like for me, when it comes to vinyl, I love listening to old school like blues.
Hmm.
And it is holiday season. I actually love listening to like Christmas songs,
Yes.
but very bluesy Christmas songs. I'm a blues girl at heart. Like, that Southern blues just sways me, moves me. So I love listening to that style of music on vinyl, but really anything to me is just like there's that extra magic to it for me. But I definitely love listening to the blues on vinyl.
Yeah, I picked up it was a QRP, really high quality pressing of Muddy Waters, a folk singer, and
Ooh,
it's a double LP because they cut it at 45 RPM, even though it's a 12-inch record.
yeah.
And it sounds it's pretty fantastic. I've been very lucky because of the companies who send me products for review. Right now, the amp I have it's like a $6,000 amp, which I don't have the money for right now. but I
Mhm.
sure get to play with it for a while. So,
That's
and
what
then
she said.
yeah, and then the cartridge I have and the turntable, it's all kind of pricey. And the only reason I
Mhm.
say this because it's just so exciting to be able to hear what's possible sonically from these records. And that the information, the interesting thing is the information has always been there. Like one of the best records I have is a Chet Atkins record that I found at it's like a bargain bin for like 50 cents. And it's original pressing from like 1964. And you put it on and you play it, and sonically it is outstanding. But back then, they didn't have what we have now as far as cartridges and speakers and amps. They just didn't have it. So to be able to hear the subtleties and the nuances that are in that record, it just shows how fascinating to me vinyl is because that information was always there. Even when we couldn't bring it out of the record, it was still there. That's freaking crazy. Like you didn't reverse engineer that. They didn't make new things. It's not a re-release. This is an original 1964 pressing that's just outstanding. So that's the kind of stuff that gets me excited about it because you just don't know what you're going to dig up.
So party at Chris's house.
Swing on by, fly across the country, bring the kids. I haven't seen them in ages.
So for our listeners that don't know, Chris and I actually met at Motor City Comic Con. So I was brought in to wrangle quite a few guests, and Chris was security and one of the best people I've worked with at the many different cons. He was just like, ride or die. Like I would have Chris at any time be like my security point.
I was just gonna say, so we should have him as security, for when we start doing cons. There we
Oh
go.
yeah, of course.
I'm not sure what her angle is. She's being awfully nice.
I have always been nice to you, Chris.
Mostly you have, but that was a fantastic show, and I really loved working with you.
Okay. He said mostly. Look here. The only time I got pissy with you is when you slighted me for someone else you thought was
Well, it was
better.
yeah. You know what that was? That was just my inexperience. That's all that was. I didn't know what to do. I'd never been put in that situation before because I think actually that was the first year that they brought me from a volunteer to full on staff. It was either that
Got
year or the
it.
year prior, and I'd never been put in that position before. And that guy was, well, let's not get into that. He was just very pushy. So I think what I did is I tried to give this squeaky wheel grease instead of taking care of the people that were taking care of me. But it's a mistake that you make when you're early on in your career.
I mean, the thing that's difficult, you were in a difficult position where you had people that had needs at the same time and you're trying to figure out how to get it all done at once. But I was very easy to smooth over. I would say if you
Definitely.
were going to slight one of us, probably I was the one to slight anyways because for me it's like give me some flowers of rebel and it's like okay and say I'm sorry and it's like okay, we're cool. If you had pissed off that person, it probably would not have gone over as well.
Actually, I ended up doing it later on anyway. I think the next year's show, and then he
Oh
stopped coming
no.
to our show. So fuck him anyway. It's all good.
So didn't work. It was fine anyways.
Kismet. Yeah, it worked. It worked itself out. Yeah, I was a sucker for you. That's for sure. You had me at hello when we met you at the airport.
You have me a hello. Did anyone meet me at the airport?
Yeah, you and Kat came in, and it was my whole crew because we had airport duty. So we were waiting for you guys, and you showed up first, and then you did what no agents ever do, and you stuck around and helped. Like you waited for your talent, and we
That's
sat there in
right.
the airport for hours, and that's how we got to know each other. We were just shooting the breeze because we had downtime in between flights. No agents stick around.
I remember I helped other talent too. I
Oh
remember
yeah,
that because I
yeah.
remember there were a few the Karate Kid guys came in
Hmm.
and their agent wasn't there and they hadn't given, I
Was that the year
believe,
that Macho was there?
Yes, and
Okay.
they didn't give information on the flights. So we
No, it was
had
a mess.
Billy came in and Marty and Machio came in and they had
Yeah.
nobody there to greet them. And I saw them and I'd known them from other shows. They were
Mhm.
awesome with me.
Great
And
people.
they were just like, Ashley. And I'm like, where's your agent? They're like, I have no idea. And I'm like, okay, come with me.
I think he was already at the hotel bar.
Well, when I was there, I got them because we were there waiting for all of our people to come in and I
Right.
saw them. So I pulled Zapka and Marty had come in on the same flight. So I pulled them into the same car as us because they didn't have a ride coordinated because
Yeah,
nobody had
it was a
told
mess.
the show when their flight was coming in. And then, of course, the autograph hounds were there waiting for them. And I'm
The
just
mouth
like,
breathers. God, I hate those guys.
yeah. So I like put an arm in each one and I'm like, let's go, boys. And they're like, look, it's our girlfriend Ashley. I'm like, yeah, let's go.
I had to actually physically rescue Tara Reid from one of those guys.
That doesn't surprise me.
It was surreal. But yeah, the mouth breathers at the airport were a handful, and I do not miss that at all.
Yeah. I remember seeing the boys and like that was a show that got
Mhm.
really crowded. And I
Yeah.
remember because Billy kept leaving his table, not Billy, the other Billy, Boyd kept leaving his
Okay.
table and I kept having to go hunt him down.
He was having a great time, though.
He was having a blast and I would go get him to get him back to his table. But I remember just like trying to navigate through the crowds. I remember Karate Boys, the Karate Kid Boys, their agents like, Ashley, I have to go check these other people, like some of his other talent. Can you please walk them to their photo op? So I ended up walking the photo op. And you know, at the photo ops, they're like, can you stand in for the photo so we could do a test photo? So I'm like, yeah, sure. So I stand with them. And I remember Billy wraps his arm around me because they have an ongoing joke. I'm their girlfriend. And then Marty grabs my arm and he bit my arm. Like there's a photo of him biting my arm. And I'm like, what the fuck, Marty?
Jeez. That show, that Detroit show, the alcohol seems to flow very freely there. Probably because of the cold Michigan winters, and we're all just pent up. And by the time May rolls around, we are ready to let loose.
Dude, England got me so trashed because, like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I was like, I will have
The
one
whole
drink for
country?
you because all the boys, Robert England, they were like all sitting at the table and they're like, Ashley, come have a drink with us. We ordered you a drink. And I'm like, how do you say no to that? So I sit down and I was like, I will have one. And he kept like he's a charmer. He kept talking to the whole table, but then
Oh,
he'd
yeah.
grab the bottle and top off my drink. And
Sure.
like 3 top offs later, Billy leans over and he's like, I thought you were only going to have one. And I'm like, shut your mouth, Billy.
And Robert's smooth about it too, because he'll
He
tell
is
you,
so
well,
smooth.
he'll tell you about the wine while he's pouring it
Mhm.
to you, where it came
Exactly.
from and the type of grape. Like there's a method to it, and he's not doing it to be. It's not subterfuge. Like he just wants you to have a good time. Robert England is very social, because I remember when I was hanging out with him at that particular hotel, he had a whole bunch of people around, and they had like lots of meats and cheeses, and he kept
Yep.
telling everybody what paired with what and how to have
How
the
to eat
wine with.
it.
That's
Yes,
that's
how
his
to eat
jam.
the cheese plate. We talked
That's
about
his
that on the
jam.
previous
Oh yeah.
episode.
But there's something to be said for breaking bread with a horror legend like that, which is a lot of fun, because you meet
My
him and
number
he's
one
just so
legend.
genuine and he's so happy to meet you and he's happy to meet
Yeah.
all the fans. But
Mhm.
yeah, if you get that opportunity and you're hanging out with him, he will guide the conversation in a polite way. But yeah, you will have wine and meats and cheeses, and you'll hear the entire story about where the hell they came from.
I love it. And what's funny is he wouldn't even make eye contact with me. He'd go to top it off, and then he'd be looking at someone else talking and just reach over
Oh
and top
yeah,
it off. Just being
that's
super,
subtle,
super
smooth.
subtle and just
It's
kind. And I'm like,
nonchalant.
I'm gonna get trash. And I said I would have one.
He's not drawing attention to himself. No, he knows what he's doing.
I mean,
It
but what
was
a story. Come on. Getting trashed with freaking Freddy Krueger? Come on.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
It's like
know.
my dream right there. Just even
It,
freaking meet the guy. Come on.
yeah, it was not a bad thing. My equipment is assaulting me. My light just fell on me.
I saw
Um,
that.
all right. So then, since we're talking about horror
Mhm,
icons and music,
mhm.
what is your favorite horror movie soundtrack or
Um,
score? It could be a score. It doesn't have to be a soundtrack. And some people don't know there is a difference.
Yes, there is a
sure.
difference.
Yeah, I have several, because it's kind of like one of those things. How do you pick your favorite kid? Which I hear you're not supposed to do. I only have the one kid, so I've never had to encounter that.
I hear you're not supposed to do, but we
Well,
all do.
that's you can't have your favorite child. I just have the one child, so it makes it easier. And at first she wanted a sibling, and now she's very glad she never got one. But yeah, I have. There's something about the original Halloween theme that gets to
Yeah.
me. That one is special. Tubular Bells. Are you familiar with that? The Mike Oldfield. So that's
Exorcist?
Exorcist. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Exorcist, yes.
Mhm.
You gotta
Well,
remember who you're talking to, Chris.
sure. Well, a lot of people haven't heard that's the name of it, but they also don't know that
Oh,
song is 26 minutes long.
yep.
Like it's a
Yeah.
total jam, that guy put out, and he did It's two sides to the record. The whole record is only two songs, and it's like a total of 45 minutes or some nonsense like that. Of course, the intro is what everybody knows best, but what's really interesting about that is it runs in a 15/8 time signature, which is why it's so disconcerting, which is kind of the same thing that John Carpenter did with the Halloween theme. That's in a 5/4. So there's something about not being in a steady 4/4 beat. I think it makes it a little more edgy, and that's why I enjoy them so much. The Jaws theme, John Williams is brilliant, so can't go wrong there. I like the ones that really put in a lot of effort to construct the music. Like a lot of the modern ones, not all of them, but a lot of them. And it's not that they're bad, mind you, but they're kicking out horror movies so quickly now that I don't think the composers get the time they want to do them unless they're like big name composers. Like right now, one of my favorite guys is Michael Giacchino. He is brilliant. He just did the latest thing he did was the Batman soundtrack, but
Okay.
he's done a million things, and he's just unbelievably talented. I also like Bear McCreary a lot. He does Walking Dead stuff. It's hard to pick a favorite, but I like the ones that they really take the time. Have you heard the story? So when John Carpenter was pitching the movie to the studio, and he had some dailies to show them, because back then they obviously shot everything on film, and they would go to the studio to show them because that thing was made on a shoestring budget. I think the total budget was like $300,000, and even in $1978, it's not much at all. So he went into the studio to show them the dailies and what they were doing because they wanted to know what they were getting for their money, otherwise they weren't going to give him more money, or they wouldn't keep the film going.
Right. They need proof that it's going to be something.
Yeah, and they watched it, and they just see this goofy-looking guy in a mechanic's jumpsuit and a stupid mask walking around, and it's completely silent. Because he's just following Jamie Lee Curtis or whatever. It's like broad daylight.
Right. It's just the dailies. The people don't realize the music's not there when they're filming.
Right? Yeah, absolutely not. And the studio hated it. And then he went and he did the entire score. I believe it was like in 3 days. So he did the score, and he put that with the dailies, and he brought it back to the studio, and they went apeshit. They absolutely loved it. They gave him, the funding that he needed, which again still wasn't much, but it was the music in that film that made it go. And it kind of, for me, even before I knew that story, that was one of the things that made that movie go, because that 5/4 time, it's kind of like an odd march, and it doesn't stop. And even though they've changed it a couple of times over the years, the backbeat on it, as a matter of fact, I have it here. Let me make sure I don't have the volume too loud though. But this is the original, and you can hear the backbeat of it, which is just an electronic kick drum.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's the steady. It never changes. It doesn't slow down. It doesn't stop. He just keeps marching forward and forward. And of course, you got to have horror organ theme sounds come in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the updated one, which he did with his son Cody, and then another guy named Daniel Davies, who's a really excellent composer I like a lot. It's very similar. The bass drum is a little more prevalent. They changed the piano. Now there's some stuff in the middle that's a little different too, but that nonstop march really set the tone for me. And I think that was one of the first times I ever really fell in love with horror music at all, is because I couldn't at the time put my finger on what it was. But then as I grew into an adult and a musician and I heard what he was doing, it's like, wow, he really put thought and effort into making that happen. And that helped make the movie. And then it kind of set the precedent, because that was like, for most people, that was the first slasher film, but it wasn't a dumb one, because in the 80s they got really hokey, and even that series got pretty fucking hokey. But that original one, even the second one, was pretty good. I was kind of bummed that they tried to, retcon that thing. Did you ever watch the new one, Ash? I know you were a little behind on Halloween there.
I'm still behind. I haven't watched the final one.
Totally calling you out.
I know, and still call me out, because there's still movies that I haven't seen that I need to do like a power marathon. So here's the deal. I keep getting movies thrown onto my plate to review. So it pushes back the ones that I want to watch for fun. So I need to get... Shut the fuck up. I need to get caught up. Okay. So who's going to do watch party with me?
I will. Let's do it.
I've never done one of those. That's one of those networking things that I just know very little about. That's why I don't have a camera up right now because I just don't know how to do that nonsense.
Well, I invite you guys to do a watch party with me
If you
because
tell
Hell
me how to do a
yeah.
watch party, I will happily do it.
that's probably the only way I'm gonna watch these movies I need to
Right.
watch. So
I know like certain apps and stuff on the TVs or your Xbox, whatever, they have like things where you can watch it now. I think Amazon has one too.
yeah, it's
With
like
Yeah.
a
Amazon
watch party
Prime.
invite.
Yeah, I saw that. I
Yeah.
just don't know.
How to do it. Yeah, I'm
I
not sure
don't know
how
what
to
the
do it
hell
either,
that
but
means.
like, yeah. It's just a cool button you press and things
I'll
happen. I don't
figure it
know.
out so we can geek out
Yeah,
together.
no,
Okay.
no, I'm
Hell
into
yeah.
it. I'm into it. Do
Hell
you have
yeah.
a favorite soundtrack or score yourself?
Ash, you want to go first?
Yes. No, I talk a lot. Why don't you go, John?
Okay, I'll go. Honestly, growing up in the 80s and with watching this with my mom a lot, Nightmare on Elm Street. You know, you hear that music and then you see like the New Line Cinema logo,
Hmm.
and I'm just like, I know I'm in for something like this. It's freaking. I always associated New Line with Nightmare on Elm Street just
Sure, I did
because of
too for
all
a
of
long
that.
time. Yeah,
Yeah, and just I mean, you hear that music and you know, oh shit, Freddy's coming. We're gonna die. Like, what the hell's
yeah.
going on? I
He's
loved
coming
it.
for you.
Still love it. And then that's score wise. Soundtrack wise, I got to be a pain in the ass and say Scream 2. I don't know why, but that soundtrack just freaking still hits for
Really, the
me.
Scream 2,
And
because I had the Scream
yes,
3. Actually, I still have the Scream 3 soundtrack on CD.
yes,
That's
I've
got
got
some
one,
really
two, and
good
three
stuff on
on.
it.
Yeah, I've got 1, 2, and 3 on CD as well. But yeah, Scream 2 is definitely one of my favorite soundtracks.
Gotcha. What about you, Ash?
Okay. Score wise, I'm gonna be out there that most people don't think about, but I'm gonna go with Candyman. Um,
Really?
there is like we're talking about Helen's theme and the music box reprise
No
that they did for the
kidding.
new one. It is sexy. There is a scary, haunting. Like when we think about Candyman, like for me, I'm not
Now
gonna
you're
say
talking about the
we.
new one, or the original?
Both.
Both? Okay.
So, because they I feel for me, for the new one, they actually paid some honor to the original scoring. So, they kept a lot of the similar vibes. And so for me, Candyman very much carries like a sexiness. I've said his name 3 times, so I'm not gonna go 2 more. Um,
Well, that was Philip
he
Glass. I wanted to look up who did the music. It was
Yes,
Philip Glass.
Philip
That's why it was
Glass.
so good. Okay.
Yes, and there is a like that iconic character is sexy and frightening for a reason, and a lot of it to me is the music that they played underlying with him. The music itself is haunting, it's sexy, it's sad, it's scary, and because they were able to layer that all into the score,
Mhm.
I feel like that really just helped create that world for him and elevate that character. So I really love, like, especially the music box. Like, oh, like sometimes I will write to that, I will edit to that, I will do things to that because it puts me in a certain space that is like sexy horror. And I love it. I really love it. So when we talk about soundtracks, though, this is not going to come to anybody's surprise. Anybody that's listened to this show knows
Uh
I will
huh.
always, always, always love number one, the Lost Boys soundtrack.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
Can't go wrong with that one.
There it is.
Oh,
Like that soundtrack I have, I listen to it, I still
sure.
listen to it. Um, I recently, well, I think in April, I went to the Lost Boys anniversary in Sacramento. And they had
Oh, no way.
Tom Mack. Gerard Tom Mack was there, and
Yeah.
he talked about how he created that iconic "Cry Little Sister" song.
Yeah, that's such a good. I heard the original and then somebody redid that, and it was actually a
Yeah.
fairly decent job because a lot of times, I'm not trying to bag on anybody, but whoever the band is that recently did the cover of the Ramones' Pet Cemetery
Hmm.
for the new, I didn't like it. I'm listening to that. I'm like, what the hell is this? Then again, if you're trying to recreate anything that Joey Ramone has done, you might as well just stop. Like, just don't do
Yeah.
that. Write a new
Right.
fucking song because you're not going to beat Joey Ramone.
Few people redid it. Even Marilyn Manson did "Cry Little Sister." Did not, in my opinion, land for me. But
Yeah, I'm
even
not a fan of
was
his
it
anyway.
Bad
So
Wolves? Didn't they also cover it?
maybe that's what it
That
was.
sounds
I
familiar.
think
Sounds
it
about right.
was. Something
While
like
she's
that.
looking that up,
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw an honorable mention to not really a scary movie, but the first like soundtrack that I bought that was a score
Hmm.
alone, Jurassic Park.
Okay.
Like seriously, that music, I
That
played that stuff on CD just constantly.
is that John Williams too?
I think it might be, to be honest with you.
Because he's done. I mean, obviously he did Jaws. He's done
Obviously,
Star
all
Wars.
of his
He's
stuff. Yeah.
he's done some incredibly important and powerful pieces of music. The Jaws theme was, at its time, very different because it's so subtle, and then it builds in theme and in time. Oh, well, here I've got it. I'll just play the damn thing. At least maybe I will. We'll see if I can get it to go. And there we go. But it builds so slowly, which he was obviously putting toward the emotion of the shark. It's a
Yeah.
slow stalking thing, and then it gains speed, and then
Yep.
once it's found what it wants, it's relentless. Because as you know, sharks don't sleep; they
Yeah.
swim 24/7. So the fact that
Yep.
it just keeps going on and on, when you put that kind of thought process into your music, when you're trying to convey emotion for a movie, if you don't do that, I feel like you're doing yourself a disservice, and of course the audience as well.
I think along the same vein, I experienced the same when it came to scoring with like Hellraiser as I did
Hmm.
with Candyman,
Hmm.
because it was able to create those worlds of horror and tension, and there is an eroticism that you get
Yeah.
with both of those worlds that you don't see, right? Like, how often do we get horror mixed with like a sensuality?
Well, Hellraiser, yeah, was quite unique, not only in the scope
Yeah.
of the story, but its sound wasn't
Hmm.
like other sounds. Like when it came to the music of the movie, there was
Right.
nothing else like that going on at the time. That's for sure.
Yeah. And obviously, I gravitate to that, like that
Hmm.
disturbing horror that sometimes comes across as sexy. Like psychology that, listeners, but I
Yeah, this
dig
is a
it.
very different side of you.
Oh, it's not that different if you
Well, I
listen
mean,
to
for
it.
me, it is. We've never talked about sexy horror before, so.
And to me, like I find a lot of horror sexy in a way that most people probably would not. I think with Hellraiser, that's obvious, right? Like it was
Hmm.
supposed to be
For sure.
erotic, dark horror that was
Yeah.
disturbing to some, but sexy to others. That was intentional. But when it comes to things like, Tony Todd, not a lot of people necessarily saw like the sexuality in there, whereas I'm like, ooh, that is sexy times. He'll be back. And not so much what he was doing is sexy, but there is an energy and a vibe that is
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
conveyed through the music and the voice. Like, there's a reason they're choosing actors with very deep, like,
Yeah. Well,
throaty
he's also a
voices.
tall and imposing guy. I don't know if you've worked with Tony, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's a tall, and I mean, in person, he's incredibly polite and pleasant,
He's
but
so nice. I
He
know.
is he is tall, and I mean, he's a handsome fella, and he can be imposing when he's standing next to you and he's talking to you with that voice. So they definitely cast that. I haven't seen the remake. I actually haven't had a whole lot of interest. I probably will at some point, but I don't. I
You
just
have to
don't
go
get into
with an open
remakes.
mind,
Well, I don't get
honestly.
into remakes a whole lot. That's the problem.
They changed the world. Like, they definitely changed the world.
Yeah.
But
I mean, well, if you're going to remake it, you should.
for me, I am, you know me. I love classic horror. And so if
Hmm.
something's remade, I automatically knee jerk reaction is I hate it. But I'm like, I have to see it. And I was gonna do a review on it.
Hmm.
So I went and watched it. And I will say up until like 30 minutes in, I was like, I hate this. I don't like
Yeah.
it. And then 30 minutes in, I did like a check, like, how am I feeling? And I was like, oh shit, they got me.
Well, okay, good.
I'm feeling it. I get where they're going. I get what
Yeah.
they're doing with it. So I'm gonna stay with it. And by the end, I'm like, fuck, I love it. Like when you are leaning into a movie, especially with Candyman, right? Like he is the antagonist, protagonist, antagonist. But when at the end you are cheering on, like say his name, say his motherfucking name, because you want to see him come out and do what he does. Like, man, that is great writing. That
Yeah,
is
if you're
great
involved,
execution.
if you're emotionally involved like that, that's definitely a powerful pull.
Yeah, they
And I'm
got
not
me.
I'm not saying they did a bad job, and I'll definitely give it a watch at some point. I'm just confused as to why Hollywood feels the need to consistently remake things. Like what was the I forget the director off the top of my head. Whoever redid Psycho shot for shot. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
With Vince Vaughn, like, what the fuck was the point of that? That's
Here's the
like
thing.
that's something you do in film school as a student project. Like, I'm going to remake a classic shot for shot. You don't fund that with a major motion picture, but they did.
The thing is it's a monetary game because
I know, but it pisses me off.
people are nostalgic, and who's making the money and spending the money right now.
Yeah.
It's our demographic that those are the movies that were big hits for us. 10, 20 years ago, what was being remade? The Fog, Aliens, like Rosemary's Baby. Like a lot of stuff was being remade, speaking to the generation before us. And now that it's our turn, like this range of demographic, they're the ones that have disposable income. Let's talk to their wallets because they're feeling nostalgic.
Yeah. Ironically, though, it doesn't work on me.
I know. And what they don't realize is most horror fans are like, no, don't fucking do that.
Yeah. The tale has been told.
Yeah, I have to bring up, one that they definitely didn't need to touch, and I have to blame our former co-host on this one. Thank you, Kevin, for saying he wanted to see a remake of the freaking Exorcist, and here we go next year.
Oh, are they really?
They are. They actually have 3 slated. Yeah, they have 3 slated for it.
Next year, and it's going to be a whole trilogy.
I hear this sigh. Poor
Thanks,
Chris.
Kevin.
He's
I
like,
don't even know what to say to that. Like, why? Just
I know,
why?
and they've got the mom from the original cast. But for me, like, it doesn't matter who you bring back. Like,
No.
start your own. For me, start your own line. It's later in the line. Don't touch the original content. Like, leave that alone.
The only thing about that makes me not as cringy as when they remake original horror films is that it was a book, a fantastic book at that. So I'm not as opposed to people taking the original source material and trying to get closer to it, like the Dune remake.
Like it.
Yeah, well, the Dune remake, those were incredibly well done. Now, the original It was a made-for-TV movie, so I mean that wasn't going to be, even though that Tim Curry was in it, it wasn't going to be good to begin with because you can't, it was on freaking like Channel 7 or something. You can't do that.
Bite your tongue, Chris.
No, I said what I said.
I mean, it still scared the crap out of me, but
I'm
Tim Curry's
knocking
fantastic. We love that guy.
It was good. Like, it's not that it was bad.
No, I know.
But they couldn't do what needed to be done. So, but they're going to the source material. They're not taking a film that was just a film and then trying to, like, Candyman wasn't a novel as far as I know. It was just a screenplay. Leave it the fuck alone.
No.
Leave it the fuck alone.
Don't do that. Like Seven, the same thing. Like, leave that alone. Don't give it a sequel. Don't remake it. That movie is good as it is. Just leave it the fuck alone. Keep your hands off it. But it doesn't matter what we say because how they're going to do what they want to do. I just vote with my wallet, and I don't go to the theater to watch those sorts of things.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little pissed. I heard about 2 movies that are going to be remade, and maybe we'll see what happens. But I heard that they're going to be remaking People Under the Stairs,
like,
no,
and An American Werewolf in London.
Again, no.
So I'm not pleased about that. Like, I don't mind that they're going to remake Arachnophobia because that was just not my jam, anyways. But
I freaking love that movie.
They're really going back to the well, aren't they?
They really are.
No new ideas whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yep. They're rebooting A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Again. It's not gonna. I don't think it's gonna work. It just doesn't. It's not the same. Part of the reason that the originals worked the way that they did is because of when they happened. There was a time and a place, and now it's not that people don't want that kind of a horror, but it's already there. They already have, I don't know, was it 6 or 7 movies? But how it was done, the campy nature of it, and some of it, that was the era in which we resided. That was how those films were made to fit the times that they were created in. You can't, when you spit and polish them too much, because they tried to remake Friday the 13th as well. When you put too much shine and spit and polish on them, it's not the same feel. They were never meant to be artistic forays. They were meant to be. They were borderline student films. Like, these guys had crazy ideas on shoestring budgets, and they threw out a bunch of gore, horror, and cheap fake blood, and we ate it up. because we had never seen anything like it. Then trying to turn around and make it too cerebral and graphic, it takes something away, at least for me anyway. Maybe other people love it and that's what they want to see, but not so much over here.
I think that's part of why I have not. Don't shoot me, John. I still haven't watched the new Hellraiser movie.
Yeah, it's okay.
I haven't finished it, but I still want to watch it.
I can't bring myself to do it. Like, I know, like, the trailer looked great, but part of me, because I've had such a strong love for the original Hellraiser and the Hellraiser first few of them, I'm having a hard time with, like, okay, here we go again. Let's see how you did.
Right, understandably so.
You know, what I can say about that is, and this is for me, this is the truth of it, you're not missing anything by not seeing it. And I think that's also the problem, because if it were bad, I would just say, oh, that sucks, don't waste your time. If it were really good, I'm like, oh my gosh, you really need to check that out. They really did something special. It was very ignorable. You're just
Oh,
not missing
no.
anything. By not watching it, you're not fucking missing out. You're not. I mean, the effects were wonderful. The acting wasn't bad. The makeup was great. The scenes and the setting, all of that was really well done. But it was just, the story was just ignorable. It didn't add anything to the mythos of the entire Hellraiser world at all. At least that's my opinion. John, what do you think?
I haven't finished it, but I mean, I agree with you so far. So,
Which says enough, doesn't
I keep
it?
falling asleep. I get
yeah,
27 minutes in
right.
and I just take a nap.
And sadly, that's true.
Yeah, it just was very ignorable. I think the only reason I saw it is because
Yeah.
I streamed it for free.
Okay.
Yeah, that was it. Like I think my daughter, it was on Hulu, right?
Yeah, it was on Hulu.
Yeah, my daughter. I have Hulu because of my daughter. Bless her heart. And when I watched Prey, the latest Predator movie, which was fucking fantastic,
Oh,
I'm
I
like,
loved
okay,
that
well,
loved
movie.
it.
maybe this Hellraiser thing will have wheels. You know, maybe it's got legs. It'll go someplace. And I watched it. I'm like, I mean, I had,
I
you know,
like the.
Eh.
I had a couple hours to kill. It was like a Thursday night, so it's not like I lost sleep or time over it. It wasn't like, okay, well, I can either go work on my dissertation or I can watch Hellraiser. I didn't have anything else to do, so I watched it. But I was just left with, okay, well, I watched it. And you know what's ironic about this? I haven't talked about it since, until now. So,
Oh
just because it's just
no.
there was nothing to say. I'm not mad about it. There was just nothing to say. Even the music was meh.
So then I don't feel so badly. I have a question for the group.
John has to answer first.
Okay. It's just one question. Okay, maybe two. So I think about the especially like the 80s horror
Mhm.
where we had a lot of like the choir kids and that
Mm.
suddenly became like just synonymous with scary. Like I think about The Omen and The Exorcist
Children of
and
the Corn.
like Amityville Horror, Children of the Corn. Like you hear the choir kids and it's like, oh shit, we're all gonna die. And for me, I wondered where did that start? Where did we first start equating these like and creepy, children's choir and death and horror?
John, you're up first, buddy.
Children are fucking scary. That's what I have to say about that. And I think it's because they can hit such a high pitched freaking sound that young that it makes it even freaking scarier. I don't know. I've always wanted to kick a little kid. Sorry,
What?
that like freaking
Wow.
comes at me. Just kick him. Just get the fuck out of here.
Jonathan.
That's John Thomas, chair of
Children of the
3Haunted
Corn.
podcast. Yeah, what the hell, buddy?
All right, I love kids. I have two of my own.
Do you
damn it.
kick them? Because CPS.
You kicked him?
I used to. They
Yeah.
kick back
Oh
now.
my
I'm just
God,
joking.
John.
I'm kidding. I am not a violent person.
I have a theory on that, and I have a feeling it's probably whoever started the trend probably went to Catholic school and had very bad experiences, right? Because
Yes.
for me, if you take children who are obviously innocent most of the time, unless John's kicking them, if you have innocent children and they're singing, and these tones they're a little unnatural for adults because we can't usually sing that high, but kids singing is usually a joyous occasion. It's a happy thing, so it's a complete juxtaposition to death, horror, scary. So yeah, I think some Catholic school kid was traumatized and figured, hey, if this scares me, this will scare other people. But that's just a hunch.
I changed my answer. That's the
No,
answer
you
I
don't
wanted.
get to change it, child kicker.
Damn
Bootsy.
it. I
That's a really
tried.
good question,
Crap.
though, Ash. I like that one. Do
Yeah,
you
that is a
know
good question.
where the well? I don't know that it's fact. I think it's the popular. What is that? Popular theory or whatnot. The very first horror theme that identified a character. Do you know where that came into play?
Mm.
It was in the 1930s. Nothing. Universal horror.
It wasn't
I
Phantom,
was
was
gonna,
it?
yeah.
Nope. It was actually The Bride of Frankenstein.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh.
There you
Franz
go.
Waxman, what he did is so most music theorists credit him for the first time that he took it's a 3-note theme that she has. So whenever she's on screen, it's the same 3 notes. I'll see if I can find them here, but that hadn't been done before. So she had her own particular theme that was unique to her, and it was recurring. And now it's of course commonplace. Let me see if I can find. Oh, there it is. Now, I don't know if these are the 3 notes though. I have to skip ahead. There it is. So anytime she's on screen, those 3 notes will be played in some sort of progression. And that was accredited as the first time in a scary movie that a horror thematic piece was created. And now, of course, we have them for Jaws and every other character we've mentioned thus far. But horror trivia music, I like it. I want to know, now I want to find out who started the whole children singing thing.
Yeah. And I think maybe people realized, because I think about like nursery rhymes,
Hmm. Hmm.
how a lot of them are pretty like gruesome.
Yeah.
Like that like Ring Around the Rosies and stuff like
Hmm.
that. They're really disturbing. And you have these, and like you said, innocent children's voices, but it's in the stark contrast to something really gruesome.
Yeah.
And so maybe that enhances the horror, right? It
It does
enhances
to me.
like the tension and the terror, because you have something sweet and innocent compared with something really stark in contrast. And so maybe that in and of itself, having something sweet paired with something really dark and disturbing, helps enhance the terror.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, going back to A Nightmare on Elm Street, hello, the kids singing 1, 2, jump roping. Yeah, that's telling me that's not fucking creepy. Like,
I've always thought that kids jump roping is a little scary, mainly because I can't do
yeah,
it. But yeah, they freak me out.
I
I
can't
would watch
either.
girls do double dutch. I'm like, they're fucking possessed. Like, how? That's not natural. What the hell are you doing? How do you
Right?
do that? Like, there's 2 ropes going in 2 different directions at 2 different speeds, and they're like just dancing around in dresses.
Yeah. How do you
I
not get
can't do
smacked?
that. Yeah, I just hit myself in the head with a fucking rope.
Well, it definitely enhances the terror, because it's like, holy cow, these kids are innocently jumping rope and like playing hopscotch, and they don't realize what's about to happen, or they're right next to the house where Freddy, who mutilates people in their sleep, lives. And so that, I guess, just that mountain of terror is that much more like evident. And I like it. Like it's disturbing, and that contrast of using those two polar opposites. It works. Like Children of the Corn, right? You have killer children. At some point it gets old, right? If too many movies are done with killer children, but Children of the Corn being kind of the first few, Children of the Corn, The Omen, stuff like that, like
Village of the
it's
Damned.
fucked. Yeah, like it's super fucked.
Another thing I think, even though I'm not a huge fan of the Nightmare series, which I'm going to take flack for, but that's fine. Something they did though very well with the way that they lit the children, like what they filmed them. They're
Mhm.
in lighter clothes. I think a lot of them are even blonde, but they're very soft too. It's not a sharp, hard edge. I don't know that they used a filter, but it's a very nice, soft, innocent, and that's to be contrasting with all the gritty, dirty, grimy crap that's around them. That's well thought out too. Uh, could have been Wes Craven because he was a pretty smart fella.
I think they did use like they upped the highlight
Yeah,
to
definitely.
create that kind of
Halo
glowy
effect, yeah.
almost, yeah, that
Mhm.
halo over them, and it worked, like you said,
Yes.
especially in stark contrast to the gritty and the murder and the gore.
Yeah. There was a lot of clever things in that for sure.
I love when movies remember how important the music and the scoring
Hmm.
is to it. Like
Hmm.
the newest Candyman revisiting the Helen's theme and the music box and that haunting kind of beautiful scoring that elevates it to that mixed complex layer, right? I also have a special love note. Zombies terrify me. Like
Really?
the zombie genre does not sit well with me. I don't do well with zombies.
Hmm.
But can we talk about how Dawn of the Dead completely shifted Johnny Cash from being like something
Oh, the
to
remake?
me that was, yeah,
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
early 2000s. To me, he is synonymous with zombies now because a lot of his songs were used during that remake throughout the entire
Oh, sure.
thing.
Yeah.
And so for me, when I hear Johnny Cash now, I think zombies. And I'm like, did the apocalypse start? The zombies are coming.
Ah,
Run!
sweet. Now I know what to play when I'm in California.
They used it in a way, they picked just the right songs. They put it
They
in
really did.
just the right moments
Yeah.
that when you end on Johnny Cash, you begin on Johnny Cash, but then you end on Johnny Cash, and all of those tense moments in between and those like hopeless moments, like, man, they got me. Johnny Cash, I hear now, and I'm like, zombies, turn it off.
Well, a lot of his music was not. It was pretty intense as well. Like the things that he wrote about, a lot of heaven and hell stuff going on there because he had his own, his own demons that he was battling.
Mhm.
What did he name his dogs? It was like Wrath and Fury or something like that. He had a couple of dogs that he named him, and it was like biblical stuff. He was a pretty intense guy. Like everybody, like, oh, sweet old Johnny Cash, the Man in Black. Then sometimes, yeah, because you hear things like the Assembly Line song with the Cadillac that he built, which I love, or A Boy Named Sue. Those are uplifting, funny, but at the same time, yeah, he had a lot of songs about fire and brimstone. They definitely picked. I actually kind of liked. I hate to say, but I kind of liked that remake. But at the same time, I'm like, oh, but why did they do it?
No, I loved it.
Did you? And yeah, and that's fair.
Yeah, I loved it too.
Zombies terrify me, but here's why I actually did not mind it. One, because Romero did it himself. If the king of zombies wants to redo his zombie, like fucking
Man,
do it,
he's a
man.
lot.
You earned it. Yeah, like re-envision your zombie. But
Yeah.
on top of that, the zombies went from being a creature that was kind of like dopey and I'm kind of stuttering around and I have a chance, like I can actually maybe take one out or five, to they are on steroids and they are fast and they are calculating and it's like, fuck, I
Fast
stand
zombies suck.
zero chance against those zombies. I
Fast
will die
zombies
a
suck.
quick death. And it terrified me. I
Yeah.
think maybe that's where zombies started to scare me. I don't think I had a problem with zombie
Well,
movies.
that's not. Yeah, but that's also not a traditional zombie. Like Romero had. I'm sure you saw he had those bumper stickers that he was selling that it said "Fast Zombies Suck." It kind of started a trend where everything had to do fast zombies. So I was kind of glad when Walking Dead came around and they didn't call them zombies, which was a brilliant move. Robert Kirkman was very smart in that because the minute you kind of use a word like it's happened to me a lot. I'll watch a movie that is about vampires, but the minute they say the word vampire, you're like, oh, that's fucking hokey. So if they don't mention it, if they don't say zombie by name, even though you know that's what it is, but they don't say that, it makes it to me that much more believable. So when Walking Dead started to do that, it kind of brought it back around because the whole initial thought process from Romero was it was this slow creeping death. It was like humankind, our ourselves, the human condition. We can't avoid it. It comes for everybody. Some of us faster than others, but usually it's a slow moving thing because we're dying slowly one day at a time. So this is a lovely podcast today. So it's a message of hope, really. But when you have slow zombies, it's about the horde coming to get you, and eventually you cannot withstand the march of death over time. So the fast zombies kind of took that away from me, even though the music was awesome. So, but I did like that remake. I did like Dawn of the Dead remake. I kind of did.
I didn't mind it. If we go with like if we're talking about let's geek out for a moment.
Hmm.
If we're talking about what the zombie represented in the original Romero movies,
Mm-hmm.
the zombie represents the masses, how the
Sure.
elite and the government view us. They view us as stupid and dumb and slow and easy pickings.
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of this disease, but we're really just like we're an annoyance, but we're easily taken out, right? But when if you keep that same spin, right? Like that's what they represent, and you look at the Dawn of the Dead of what was it, 2004,
Mhm.
then it's like, holy cow, we underestimated the masses. We underestimated what, the general, how the elite usually view us. Maybe they aren't stupid and slow. Maybe they aren't weak and easily taken out, and we stand a chance to fight against this dumb masses. They are strong, they are fast, they do adapt, and that is scary. So I don't mind fast zombies in that kind of perspective. And it's terrifying as fuck.
Well, I will say that the fast zombies for me absolutely more scary. They're terrifying because now not only do you have a horde of things, they're all fucking Usain Bolt. Like, what is that about? I can't outrun him. Are you out of your fucking mind? And so I'm certainly dead, and that bothers me. So they are more terrifying. What I really liked that Romero did is he was unapologetic about them all being allegorical. He would have
Mhm.
a story to tell, something bothered him in the news, or something was going on just in our genre, or I'm sorry, in our era, our generation, and he would break his little zombies out of the box and tell a little story and then put them right back in, and he would just wait. But yeah, you can do both. You can have fast zombies, you can have slow zombies. I prefer slow zombies. I like the slow march to death, but I think it's because, to me, the fast ones, they're just too powerful. Like, there's no escape. If you have one vampire, because they're obviously strong and powerful and fast, like, that'll fuck up a whole town. One vampire. Now you have like 500 people who are just running and trying to bite you. You got a whole bunch of Marty Coes trying to bite you. Like, that's, and they
Well played.
that's comedians call that. That's a callback. But
I
that's
like it. I
terrifying.
like
It's
the callback.
terrifying to me. But then again, they're achieving the result, and I still kind of liked that movie, even though it was a remake. So maybe I'm a hypocrite.
I don't think so, because I don't think it has to be one or the other. I think they each, like you said, he pulls his zombies out and they serve a purpose in that moment in time.
Yep.
And so I love this, like Land of the Dead. I
Hmm.
love the slow zombies because they served a purpose in that one.
Yes.
It's like they truly do think we are dumb, slow, and stupid, but then those same dumb, slow, and stupid zombies learned how to use weapons. They
Hmm.
started to adapt, and that made more of an impact, right? Like if a fast zombie did that, it wouldn't have been as impactful. But the fact that the slow, stumbling zombies were suddenly learning how to shoot like a
Yeah.
machine gun, like, fuck yes, that carries a bigger impact.
Yeah.
So I do think like slow zombie, fast zombie, it just depends on the movie,
Yeah.
because that very much can dictate what story we're telling in that moment in time.
I think I'm just used to the Comic-Con vibe, because when you go to a show like that, as you're very well versed, everything is polarizing. You're either in camp A or camp B. There is no, well, I can see a little bit of both. They're like, fuck you, pal. Well, they're not going to fist fight you in the bar, because usually it's a gang of
They
nerds.
might.
But if there's 20 of them and they're walking
Hey,
after
some
you
of those
slowly,
nerds are beefed up,
well,
okay?
some of the modern day ones, but I stay away from them because I'm intimidated. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, but they seriously, you've seen them. They will fight to the fucking death on whether Han shot first. Are those the kind of people? Are those the kind of people you want to fuck with? Because there's clearly something wrong there. They're overly invested. But then again, we all have something. Because I'm just as invested in the stupid shit that I do with music. Like, the amount of money that I spend. My friends look at me like I have a third head. They're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why would you spend that much money on speakers? I'm like, because I like stuff. It makes me happy. It's not unlike the slow zombies, in that not all of us are striving to be remembered because we're legends. We don't need to have powerful seats in office. We don't have to be CEOs. We don't have to. I'm happy with who I am. I create what I like to think is pretty good art. I have a really good time making my videos on YouTube. I have good friends. My daughter's like the coolest fucking thing in the whole wide world. And believe it or not, I had a part in that, probably because I never kicked her.
Call back.
Call back.
It works out for you. And I don't need to be a CEO. I don't need to be in charge. I'm happy with who I am. And I think that's good enough. And I'm lucky enough to be able to sit here and talk with you guys about the music that has shaped who we are, the really weird people that we are. I like the common ground of fast zombie, slow zombie. You know, there is room for both, but I don't know, remakes.
No, but
Yeah,
that was
some of
such a
them.
beautiful kumbaya note.
Yeah, some of them I don't know. Yeah,
It
it was a happy note, wasn't it? This is
was
the love.
lovely.
This has been the Lovecast. You've been
The
listening
love
to
cast.
Ashley Lunar Goddess and John Thomas. My name is Chris from the Vinyl Attack. We look forward to you next time. Don't forget the 1-800 number. Leave a
On the
voicemail.
love cast.
Get in your love requests right now.
Oh my god. We should just have him record our outro.
I think so. I love it.
This is the love cast. I mean, you
Don't
haven't
forget to kick your
you haven't
kids.
trusted how nice I've been to you the entire time.
I
So
really, it's, you know what? You've always been nice. It's just, I haven't seen you
thank
so
you.
long. I forgot how polite you are. And,
Oh, I thank
I'm
you.
in Michigan. People are fucking mean here. I don't, if you walk around and you're that nice to somebody around here, like they're after your wallet or something. Like something is not right. Like, oh, what did they do to my car? They put sugar in that thing, didn't they? Like there's something wrong with somebody's that nice to you around here. So maybe that's what it is. I'm just used to that kind of a feedback.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm not mean unless you push one of my triggers.
Yeah. Hey, what about the Silence of the Lambs music? Because you're a big fan, right? You named your hoop Hannibal, didn't you? When you were
Oh my
doing
god, he
aerials?
knows me so well. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's Silence of the Lambs. Oh man.
I don't
Like,
recall much of that music. I'm going to have to take a listen to that because that was good stuff.
I mean, you have so much just from the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Like, gosh, what is the song? The horses. That he dances to.
Goodbye, horses.
Yes, Goodbye Horses. Like,
And sadly, the only reason I remember that is Jay and Silent Bob.
but yes, when you got him doing like he's got his kimono on and he's
Yeah.
tucked, you know what I mean? And he's just dancing and he's like singing the Goodbye Horses song, like, and he's doing the lipstick, like, oh my gosh, that is such an iconic scene.
Yeah.
People still dance to, like John just said, they do like parodies of it. Like this soundtrack is awesome. Or when she's singing The American Girl, what is that song called? He was an
Oh, Tom
American
Petty.
girl.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is
And
the song.
like right before,
That is the song.
yeah, right before she gets kidnapped. Like the soundtrack was pretty awesome to that
Yeah.
movie, and the songs paired so well with the scenes that it's an immediate callback, right?
Yeah.
Like you hear the song and it's like, oh yeah, I remember that from Silence of the Lambs. Or as soon as I hear Goodbye Horses, like as soon as people hear it, you start doing the dance. I'd fuck me.
I
You'd fuck me.
I don't do the dance, but that's just because that shit is painful.
Well, I don't have to worry about tucking.
Oh my
But
God.
I'm just saying, we all immediately get thrown back, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought Silence of the Lambs had a fantastic soundtrack.
Well, the original Red Dragon, which was Manhunter,
Mhm.
which was a Michael Mann film, had such a different feel, but it was still equally eerie to me because his movies always have a unique feel to them. Was it William Peterson, I think, started that one, and Brian Cox was Lecter in that.
Yeah, I think so.
But the stark contrast of how well lit and clean, because that's a Michael Mann film. He likes well lit, bright, clean,
I
smooth.
love when you talk about lighting. Talk lighting to me.
Well, I think he shot it at 5600K, which is Kelvin for those of you listening at home. Just that's what he that's how he shoots films. Like when he did like Heat, even Heat it's well lit. It's not a grungy, dirty film. Even at the end of it, he used harsh contrasting lights, like with the airplanes flying over and the shadows to conclude that film. But the music in that, it was reflected upon that, but it was still eerie. He could take a film that was supposed to be scary, which is filmed with bright lights, it's well lit, and then still make it spooky by having this music that was just left as center. Like it fit, but it was off-putting. Maybe I have to go back and wonder if it was in an odd time signature, because people don't know when things aren't in a 4/4, people generally don't pay attention. Because you can tap, well, because you don't know. And then if you don't know, you don't know. You can tap your foot, but then all of a sudden something's off. Like, where one should be, I'm on 5. And I didn't
Right.
count to 5. Why would I count to 5? You count to 4 in music, unless you're in country, which is a whole different animal we're not going to get into. But yeah, I just wondered, because I knew you were a fan of that, and I meant to ask you that earlier, and I completely forgot.
No, Fright Night also had some good soundtracks,
Oh my
like good
God.
old 80s.
I did a portrait of that, the original, it was a VHS tape is what she brought me, but the cover, so the movie poster, like the girl's face in the clouds with the fangs and whatnot. I think it's on my Instagram, as a matter of fact. I did a portrait of that for somebody. But yeah, those are a lot of fun. I do miss that. I miss doing horror portraits because those were so much fun.
So do you still have your tattoo gear?
Oh yeah, I'm not going to get rid of it.
All right, then I will be out there in 2023 and you will tattoo me and it will be fantastic.
I'm going to sit here and hold my breath.
No, you won't.
I've enjoyed listening to the show. Some of them, I it's just not for me. But that's not because of you guys. It's just subject matter changes. The Dacre Stoker one was pretty interesting. He's
Oh,
an
thank you.
interesting fellow. Yeah.
Yeah, he's super
Love
cool.
Dacre.
Yeah, no, he seemed very nice. I wasn't quite sure what to make of parts of that, and not in a bad way. It's just like, has he got an angle, or is he just that nice? You know. Well,
You and your oh my
we're
gosh, you are
suspicious in Michigan.
so suspicious of nice
Yeah.
people.
I think he needs to move from where he's at.
I'm
Like,
very
you need
close
to
to
get out of
Detroit.
there.
Like we don't
You should
fuck
move
around.
to Colorado.
I
There you
would,
go.
but the air is very thin, and I'm worried that I'll become really nice and dizzy at the same time.
Oh, we're still assholes here. It's okay.
Oh my gosh, Chris, I have had a fantastic time talking to you.
Me
And
too.
I'm so appreciative that you came on to geek out on music and horror with us. Those are like our loves. And I hope you'll come back and geek out
Absolutely.
with us some more
It was so much fun. Thank you for having me.
and bring your smooth vibes. Next time, have a camera.
I'll see what I can do. Yeah.
Called out again.
We love you, Chris. All right. Jonathan Thomas, bring us home.
All right. Thank you again, Chris, for coming on. This was fantastic. And hopefully you can come on sooner rather than later. I know schedules suck, but we're definitely going to work it out to where we get you back sooner. And thank you, everybody, to listening. Or let me try that again. No, it's not late at all. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode of 3Haunted Podcast with your host. I'm John Thomas.
I am Ashley Lunar Goddess.
And if you have any episode suggestions, questions, or comments, please feel free to email us at 3hauntedpodcast@gmail.com. And like we always ask, please, if you haven't done so already, like, follow, and subscribe to all of our social media. You don't want to miss one crazy moment.
Until next time.